We've heard a lot about how to handle AI contributions. Let's see if this will be a part of Felix's presentation.
Yeah, thank you very much for the introduction, and also thanks a lot for having me here, and thanks a lot for organizing this event. I've been here already in the last 2 years, and I really like it a lot. So this talk, it's about Ansible, but not that much about Ansible. It's more about maintaining. In case you've never heard about Ansible, you don't need to know much about it. It will mostly be about problems with maintaining code, open source projects. Quick thing about me. My name is Felix Fontein. I'm working as a software engineer at Plexim. This talk is totally unrelated to Plexim. Just wanted to mention it. This is about maintaining parts of Ansible. I've been an Ansible user for a long time, since around 2015, I think, roughly. I'm not sure anymore. I've been an active contributor since 2018, and since then I've started doing some more things, and I'm also, since a couple of years, member of the Ansible Community Steering Committee. Yeah, just as a background. But as I mentioned before, most of the talk won't be about Ansible. So the roadmap for today's talk is there's some introductory stuff. Then I'll talk a bit about the history. This is kind of about Ansible, but more about challenges doing for maintaining parts of it or things in it. Then it's more general short section on what do users expect from open source projects, and then what can we actually, as I'm saying we, I, and you, because it's maybe about me as a personal, because I myself, I can talk out of my experience, but it's also trying to be more general and trying to figure out what can we as maintainers, or we as users, what can we do to help other users to help or to maintain a project. And then I'll come to some conclusions. A quick thing about Ansible. Ansible, in case you don't know it, is an orchestration tool, or I mean, you can use it for many things. Basically, what it does on a very low level is go through a list of tasks and try to, tasks are mostly idempotent actions. So it tries to ensure that the system state is of some specific form. And tasks can be something like templating files, so that files have a specific content. They can make sure that packages are installed, that DNS entries are set up, or that web services are configured, or whatever. Doesn't really matter. What you basically need to know, well, Ansible is written in Python, and these actions, these tasks, which you can do as a user, they are implemented as Python scripts. They are called Ansible modules. And one thing that people say about Ansible is that Ansible has batteries included. This is, I think, probably more of a marketing term, I guess. It basically means Ansible, at least if you install the Python package called Ansible, it has a lot of modules included, which can do a lot of different things. So if you install Ansible, you don't need to install other things to actually be able to do something, but it already comes with a lot of these small scripts to do things. And this talk is mainly about looking at these small scripts, these modules, and how they are maintained and where they come from and so on. Okay, I'll have some cat pictures in between, so it's not just a wall of text. And also thanks a lot for still being here at this late time of the day. I mean, I've been sitting in there as well, so it gets a bit hard after time, so I hope you'll enjoy at least some of the pictures. Okay, so Ansible is started in 2012 by Michael de Haan. It was basically originally a project for provisioning servers, like installing software, setting up things you need, services, and so on. And as it became more popular, a lot more of these Ansible modules were added, which do specific tasks. Most of them were contributed by users. And this quickly led to problems of, one thing is that there was one repository at github.com/ansible/ansible, which contained everything. So there you have basically the core engine, which does stuff, and then you have this list of modules. And this list of modules got long. At some point, I think it was going to close to 4,000, if you want specific numbers. So you have like 4,000 little scripts, mostly of them independent, which do things. And well, these scripts should actually do something, so someone needs to write them, someone needs to test them, and they need to be maintained. Also, at the same time, there's another thing. Ansible is a commercial product. Originally, there was a company founded for it, Ansible Inc., or Ansible Works, I think it was called at some time. But then after some years, it was bought by Red Hat. And now Red Hat is, since a long time, offering commercial support. But I mean, as I mentioned, it contains a lot of different of these modules, and most of them are not supported by Red Hat or by Ansible before that. So you have this huge repository with a lot of stuff in there, and some stuff in it is commercially supported, some other isn't, which is also makes it more tricky. Actually, I'm using this. I'm not sure whether it's like common inside Red Hat or common outside Red Hat to basically use supported with a capital S if I want to say that something is has commercial support for it. I find this notion quite common. Sometimes people write it on chat like supported with capital S if they want to say that this is the thing where you can pay for, and everything else is also kind of supported, but it's, well, if you pay Red Hat money, they won't help you with it anyway. Good. Now we have this one big repository with a lot of stuff. So there have been problems. People tried different approaches. First, there was this idea of ripping out the modules into separate repositories using Git sub-modules. Didn't seem to work that well. Like a year later or so, they were merged back in, and everything was again in one big repository. This was before I started being active, so I don't know what exactly was the reason for reverting it, but it didn't really work well. Then there was the idea of using a bot to get to get kind of module maintainers for these individual modules, so that people are basically like community members can be maintainers for something, and if they modify something for that module, the bot allows them to like merge things or to close issues and so on. The idea was that basically these module maintainers can act without needing someone with commit rights to do stuff for them, like merge PRs. Didn't work that great. At some point, there was also Ansible Galaxy. I think it was mostly for Ansible roles, which you don't really need to know what that is. These roles could also be abused to also ship modules. And some people started using that for shipping modules, which was kind of a hack, but also wasn't very great. And then the latest invention were so-called Ansible collections. These were properly namespaced collections of content, including modules, where basically these things were first-person citizens. Well, and this all led to the big collection split in 2020, when basically, after preparations of several months, they took the big repository, which had everything in it, and split it up into, I don't know, 30, 40, 50 different repositories, where most modules and plugins, around 4,400, I did some quick counting, they were moved to these collection repositories, and only a very small amount of things was kept. And when the split happened, basically they looked at stuff which was supported, both with capital S and with lowercase s. So there were some companies which are maintaining things. There were Red Hat maintaining stuff for other companies. These got like special collections. There were some community modules which were also actively supported by community teams. They were also moved to other things, and everything else ended up in one big collection called community.general. And in the beginning, when everything was merged on March 9th, there were like 1,325 modules out of these 4,400, which ended up in this collection called community.general. Well, the one name which pops up a lot if you talk to Red Hat or Ansible people is calling community.general a dumping ground, which sometimes it really feels like that. The basic idea back then was to use a bot, the same bot as before, to basically let people self-manage this dumping ground. It wasn't really exactly clear who would do some more general work. Maybe the Ansible community team, maybe not, I don't know. Some of the modules I was personally working on also moved there, so I got kind of interested and started looking at it and trying to get involved. The first steps were like stuff like get CI working again, figure out like not so great tasks like figuring out how to do change logs, how to do versioning and releasing. I mean, if you have this big bundle of over 1,000 different things, which are mostly not related to each other, you need some system for versioning and for releasing that. I mean, you cannot just do a release once a feature or bug fix is merged, because there will be things happening all the time. So you need some structure for that. Also, we started moving some stuff out into other collections. For example, all the network-related stuff was moved to community network. Some other collections were founded out of the stuff in there. Some of them survived, some of them died quickly. Well, a couple of months later, there was version 1.0.0 with essentially half of the content which originally got into there, but at least it was kind of in a good state at that point. There was a fixed release schedule, like having a major release every 6 months, a minor release every 2 months, and bug fix releases only if necessary. This was later changed to minor releases every 4 weeks, roughly. Back then, there were very few human collection maintainers, me and some others. There were lots of module maintainers, which could, through the bot, do things. And there was also a lot of unmaintained stuff in there, which basically got added at some point, contributed, then moved to this collection, which is mostly the dumping ground part of it. It was still there, and well, in some cases, nobody even knows whether it actually still works or if anyone is actually still using it. Good. Maybe a few words about this bot, because that's, I mean, I think basically a very good idea to how you can let people self-manage this stuff. From what I heard, I mean, you know, maybe this code owners feature GitHub is having or has. And from what I heard is that it was basically inspired by this bot meta file, which the Ansible repository had or introduced a longer time ago. But I don't know whether it's true or not. Basically, there's a big YAML file which assigns maintainers, basically by the GitHub username, to every file in the collection. And if there's like a pull request for affecting a certain file, then basically everyone who is maintainer of one of the file involved can add like a shipit. And if there are like 2 shipits from maintainers, then the thing is merged, assuming that test passes. And I think there's also theoretically the way that like 3 community members can write shipit and it's also merged. So in case if there aren't module maintainers around, then you can still get things merged. But I haven't seen that for a long time, so I'm not sure whether it really worked ever. And if one of the maintainers is creating the PR, then you just need another maintainer to say shipit, and then it will get merged. And users with commit rights, they count as maintainers for everything to make it a bit simpler. But then they can also directly just click on merge and solve the problem. Good, that's how the bot works. In theory, I think it's pretty nice. Unfortunately, it didn't work well at all. In Ansible, in the big repository, it kind of worked, but it also had sort of technical problems. Like, for example, the Ansible has a system of changelog fragments where you have to create a file if you want to modify something, which basically will be included into the changelog later. And at some point, the bot didn't really know about these files and thought that if there's a file, then basically it didn't merge the pull request anymore. And since most pull requests had changelog fragments, it was pretty annoying. because nothing got merged anymore. Also, another problem, especially now with community general, is that there aren't that many active module maintainers. In theory, the author of a module will also be maintainer automatically, and maybe even some more people who sign up for it. But most people, maybe they contributed this module like 8 years ago, and well, they maybe changed job like 2 years later, and they don't really care about this kind of Python script they wrote 8 years ago anymore. So, well, if you want to change it, there's nobody who really looks at your PR or nobody who looks at the issues and so on. And sometimes there is even no active maintainer anymore for some modules, so it's even worse. And then in that case, basically, it's really hard to get anything merged or to change anything. In the end, it means a lot of reviewing, and basically all merging, because the bot doesn't really help anymore, is done by collection maintainers, which there are only very few, which is not so great, and also was one of the big problems of the Ansible repository before. Actually, I haven't seen a bot merged PR for many years now, so I'm not sure whether it actually still works. Most people don't use these bot commands anymore, so, well, it's a good question. Another problem is that with especially the content in community general, especially a lot of the old content has no tests at all, which is not so great. If you change something, you basically, well, if you use this thing yourself, you can like test at least your use cases, but you will never figure out whether you break something else. In the last couple of years, we've been forcing people to add tests for new modules. That helps a bit, but it's not so. There's still a lot of old stuff which is problematic. Also, there's the big problem I mentioned earlier. There's some stuff in there which probably doesn't work at all. The problem is we don't really know which one. I mean, sometimes we find out, for example, one other maintainer sometimes looks for DNS names in modules and checks whether they still resolve. And if like a module talks to a specific service and that DNS name doesn't exist anymore, then there's a good chance that the module is probably dead for years, maybe, we can remove it. But since there's no telemetry, which I think is a good thing, as a user, but as a maintainer, it's kind of crappy because we have no clue which stuff is actually still used. Maybe some modules have been broken for 10 years and nobody noticed because nobody bothered to create an issue, probably because nobody used it. And we still carry it around and potentially invest time in fixing things when, I don't know, we upgrade some linting rules and so on. Well, of course, there's a question like, couldn't Red Hat do things? Well, Red Hat sells support for Ansible, and this covers mostly supported collections and Ansible core. The community collections, basically by definition, they are not supported with capital S. Doesn't mean that some people employed by Red Hat sometimes do stuff on them or help or fix bugs or implement features, but in general, you can't expect, or well, Red Hat won't do that. I mean, you can always expect people to do something, but they still won't. It's like you can also wish that Santa Claus comes around and fixes all your bugs. Won't happen, sorry. Well, the big thing is community collections are community supported, and community is basically everyone. It's you, it's me, it's all the users of this stuff. So basically, community supported means like every one of us is responsible for keeping it working or doing whatever with it. So if nobody cares enough to fix something, it won't get fixed, in other words. Okay, now the cat. And so the next section is, what do users expect? I tried, or I spent some time trying to think about what or how to write down to what users actually expect from an open source project. I guess the very basic expectations are bugs should be fixed. The thing should be backwards compatible, at least most of the time. I mean, the breaking changes are okay sometimes, but most of the time You shouldn't break existing use cases. There should be new features. There should be releases when needed. And also there should be some kind of help/support, so that if you have questions, if you can't get something to work, people, or at least someone, might try to help you to get it to work. Obviously, you cannot expect everything to be perfect because you don't pay for it. So, but at least I think these are kind of the basic expectations. And to be a bit more precise, like what users expect if they create an issue in a repository or in a bug tracker in general, if there are help questions, they expect someone to read this and hopefully to respond. For bug reports, they expect someone to read it, to triage them, and hopefully to fix them. And also for feature requests, they expect that someone reads them, triages them, and hopefully implements them. And I always put this someone in bold, because someone is basically like a person in the end, or maybe in the future an AI, who has to do this. And well, these people don't randomly appear out of nothing, so they have to be there somehow. For PRs, it's similar. There should be tests which tell you already quickly whether something is breaking or whether your change is breaking something. Someone should review them, tell you whether they make sense, whether they are correct, or generally give feedback. And someone should eventually merge them if they are okay. And also, if you ask for help, there should be like a place where users can ask for help, and someone should read questions for help and try to answer them. Well, now the question is, how can we actually do something about this? Because it's always great if there's someone doing things, but where does the someone come from? Or how can we try to be the someone without completely investing all our life into nothing else anymore? And I think this question, what can we or you or I deliver? This is probably one of the most fundamental questions for open source projects. And I mean, of course, there's like stuff, also important things like actually writing some code, because without code, there isn't an open source project. You have to choose a license, you have to do a lot of other setup. But I mean, one big question is like, once we have all this, what can we do to keep this thing alive? And I mean, generally, how much or how or what we can provide, what level of support, sort of level of help, or implementing things, fixing things, and so on. This really depends on several questions, maybe on how many resources do we have, on how many users we actually have who need these resources, on how demanding the users are. I mean, this also depends a bit on your project. I mean, some users are very demanding, sometimes for good reasons, sometimes not. Some users are happy with almost nothing. Also, it depends on how broad your project actually is. For community general, resources are generally too few, because, I mean, there are very few collection level maintainers with commit rights. There are way too few in active module maintainers. So basically, yes, number of resources is too low. If we would draw circles for budgets, we would have a very tiny circle there. How many users do we have? A lot. Even though it's community general is one of the community supported collections, it's probably the most used one, in the sense that most people who work with Ansible need at least one little piece from it. They all use different pieces from it, so maybe everything in there isn't that widely used, but well, some pieces more, some less, but many people use at least one tiny piece of it. So we have a lot of users in the end. How demanding they are, well, it's kind of mixed, as always. Most people don't really care as long as it just works, or as long as their bug is fixed. Some people are, well, have more demands, but that's how basically all projects, I guess, are. I think Ansible or community general is not very special from that regard. And how broad is a project? And that's basically one of the problems. If you have like many hundreds of different modules for basically everything, it's extremely broad. You have like, I don't know, 30, 40 different cloud services which are covered, or probably even more, because there's few services where there's just 1-2 modules for, and then you have like maybe 100 modules for different services somewhere in the cloud. So it's easy to, I mean, there are so many different things, there are so many different services, so many different package managers, which are so many different obscure programs someone wanted to configure and contributed a module for like 10 years ago, which is still there. So it's extremely broad. It's basically impossible for one person or small amount of persons to know everything in there. So I guess the question is more like, how can we try to maximize usefulness, especially for one person? If I'm asking myself, how can I try to maximize my usefulness as a maintainer without investing too many resources? Because every person, also me, we have limited resources. I mean, I don't want to burn out, and I guess you also don't want to. I also have a family, I have a job, I have friends, I have other hobbies. So I cannot invest like 24/7 just working on this stuff. Also, I cannot really otherwise increase the number of resources. I cannot start hiring people who do this work. Well, maybe I can hire one too, but then I would basically have a job to pay other people to help with this, which would be a bit strange. I don't happen to be rich, so I cannot just throw money at other people to do this work. So for me, I think one of the main principles for this is, in German, there's this nice thing, Hilfe zur Selbsthilfe. I'm not sure, I think the translation help people to help themselves is pretty nice. I'm not sure whether the original actually comes from German or not. Don't ask me. So the idea, or I guess the main principle from my point of view, is to make sure, or to make it possible that people can help themselves somehow. So what does that mean? Like, think if you try to contribute to some project and, well, you don't know your way around this project. You have a problem with something, like you have a bug which annoys you, you want to fix it. First, you don't even find where you can actually fix it because you don't know anything. Then if you try to fix it, you figure out that you create a PR, then you figure out that CI is broken because you first see that the tests fail. So after spending some hours, you figure out, oh, the tests don't fail because of my changes, because the tests fail because they were already failing before. Then it can happen that your PR is ignored. So basically just nothing happens. You have your PR there, you have a great fix, nothing. Or maybe you get some feedback, someone even approves it, and then it just stays there in the state forever because it never gets merged. Or even worse, it gets merged, but there are no new releases, so you never get like the final version with actually a fix in there. I mean, of course, you can always fork it, you can have your own version, but upstream first is there for a good reason, especially because you don't want to rebase things all the time. So this is really annoying. And these are, I think, one of the biggest or most annoying blockers if you want to prevent people from helping or from changing something. So if you want to make sure that other people can help themselves, or, well, help everyone in the end, because if it's a bug fixed for which you need to be fixed, it's usually also a bug someone else needs to have fixed. So the important things are, you need to point users or contributors to resources. You need to make sure that CI is maintained. You need to keep up at least minimum standards in PRs. You have to help getting PRs merged so that changes actually get in there. And you have to help getting releases out. If one of or multiple things of this fail, then basically people cannot really fix things. So if you want people to be able to just fix things by themselves, you need to provide at least this. So from my point of view, these are the most important things we can try to do, and especially for something like community.general, where there's a lot of stuff in there. So for me personally, I mean, I'm having been working on community general for for a bit more than 6 years by now. These are the things I'm trying to do. Whether they are like a good fit for you or your project, maybe not, but then community general is not that typical project that it might be interesting for you as well. So what I do is subscribe to all notifications for the repository, so I'll find out whether there are new issues or new pull requests. Fortunately, we aren't really flooded by PRs or issues yet, so this is still viable. I'm not really looking forward to having this wave of AI contributions coming in. I mean, there are already some of them, but not that many yet. So this might change in the future. I try to at least quickly look at every new issue. I usually check the classification, bug, feature request. I mean, a lot of people are filing things as bug, which are as a bug report, which are basically feature requests. Like the module doesn't allow me what I want to do, so it's a bug, which is, I mean, I can understand it somehow, but that's not a bug, that's a feature request, sorry. Then some people are just creating issues or bug reports because they need help with something, like they cannot figure out how to actually write YAML files for Ansible. Like they try to, they indent things wrongly, so they put things into the wrong level, and then Ansible complains about something and they think it's a bug. Usually you can point them to like documentation or to the forum where they can ask questions, and the people are there who can help them. Then the bot actually does something which is really helpful, namely it looks for hints in the issue and in the pull request message for which files are affected and actually links to these files. This is really a great thing, and that's, I guess, the only reason this bot is still doing well, but at least it's doing that. But sometimes, of course, it's guessing wrong, so sometimes you have to tell the bot, like, link to that one instead, and then it provides a link. And sometimes, if I see something in this issue which I think I can help with, then I write a small comment. I'm sometimes thinking about whether I should invest more time, like create like a pull request to fix it. But usually after some time, I think I kind of decided that I think it's better to write a small comment and someone can actually try to do something with it. Otherwise, I'll get to, I mean, I don't want to invest too much time into everything, so I can have more time for everything else. For pull requests, I think one of the most important things that you should all do in open source projects is if someone creates a contribution, thank them for it. Even if it's not so great, even if you think it will never get merged, at least say thank you. And then maybe try to be a bit diplomatic when you say them it's crap. But yeah, it's always good to thank people first. And I also read at some point that it's important that you react to a pull request pretty fast. I mean, of course, you cannot sit there day and night and try to react in 10 minutes. You can write a bot to do that, but I'm not sure how great that actually is as from the user point of view. But it's kind of nice if you, at least on the next day or something, someone is writing you, hey, thanks for your contribution, maybe 1-2 first comments, and that at least it's better than nothing. When I usually look at things, I mean, as I mentioned before, community general covers a huge range of stuff. So for most of the modules, I mean, I can read the documentation, so I have an idea what it's about, but I don't know how it works. I don't really know the service it's working with, so I cannot really do that much. But what I can do is look at some formal things and also try to look especially at whether the PR seems to be breaking backwards compatibility. And also sometimes I can have a better or less good idea about whether the sense or this change actually makes sense without knowing the tool. And after some time, what I also do is, if it looks good enough, then I usually write something like, if nobody objects, I'll merge this in approximately a week. And I think this is probably one of, at least for this specific project, this is probably one of the most important things, because this allows people to make changes. If I don't merge it, then probably nobody will merge it, or maybe one of the other maintainers, but there aren't that many. We are 2 at the moment. So I basically give everyone a chance to get something in there if they at least make a PR which looks reasonably okay. I mean, this also means that that I will probably merge things which break stuff, which aren't good, but well, then someone else can try to fix it later. And what I also do is sometimes close inactive PRs, or that's another feature of the bot. You can mark it as needs more information, and then the bot will, like, in a month, like, ping again, like, hey, please provide information, otherwise we'll close it. And then I think 2 months later, it will just close it. Which is really nice, because then if there's a PR which kind of looks abandoned, which happens a lot, unfortunately, with people, I mean, some people just get sidetracked or they lose interest. Maybe they change jobs, whatever. And it's not really clear what's happening with it. You provided some feedback, maybe nobody ever replied to it. Then you can put it into a state where the users are kind of reminded they have to do something, and if they don't do something, it will eventually get closed. And I don't have to do it. I don't have to go through it every time again to check, like, oh, like, how long is it ago that I asked, should I close it already or not? Good. Oh, Microsoft Auto Update. Updates available 1. I think is it? Yeah, I just had to move the focus back to the slides. Okay, so another important thing is maintain CI, because there are sometimes, from time to time, CI stops working, or parts of it stop working. I mean, there are a lot of things which do have tests, and there are some general tests. Sometimes the CI matrix needs to be updated for new Ansible core versions, like roughly twice a year. The way Ansible, I mean, sometimes Python versions are new ones are added, sometimes old ones are removed, mostly when you're removing old Ansible core versions. That needs some small update, otherwise the CI will be red for the next days. Sometimes, I mean, integration tests run in containers or VMs, which are provided by Ansible core. Sometimes they add new platforms or they remove old platforms, and then also someone needs to update CI matrix. Let's move the mouse a bit out of the way. And if nobody does it, basically CI will start failing, and that's not great. Also, I look at failing nightly builds. Not all of them, but sometimes, especially if they're always random failures because of network problems or random other things. But if it fails like several days in a row, then I take a look and see if it's something special, something needs to be fixed, or maybe some test for some reason starts failing all the time, then it has to be disabled and things like that. Just to make sure that CI is still working, that people, if they create a PR, that they actually get feedback. Also, releases. Basically, I have to do release management, deciding which PRs get backported, which not. There's a bot which does the backporting, which is great. And then there are releases like every 4 weeks. This, on average, I would say, takes me 1 to 2 hours per day, like 365 days per year. So this is roughly maybe a 15 to 30% of a full-time job, at least here in Switzerland. So this is a lot of time, but it could be worse. And at least this time kind of keeps the collection alive. So I think it's well invested time. I have to say, one disclaimer, I do not have kids, because if I would have kids, I wouldn't have that much time to spend on it. And if you do have kids, please make sure that you spend enough time with your kids. Just saying, also, your kids will thank you, and I guess most of you are aware of that. Maybe some are not. And also, I'm kind of glad that I'm not the only one doing this at the moment. For a couple of years now, we are 2 maintainers who are actively working on this stuff. So this is also really helping a lot. So the question is this enough? The good thing is that the number of open pull requests is kind of bounded. I mean, it's fluctuating a bit. Sometimes they're more open, sometimes they're less open, but at least it's not growing anymore. And the number is actually manageable. They are like between, I would say 40 to 60, out of which like maybe 10 to 20 are drafts, which I usually ignore. So there isn't a too much or too high number of pull requests at all time, which is good. Also, most PRs actually get merged. I checked since the community general repository was created, 5,600 PRs got merged, 650 PRs got closed without being merged. For a whole different, I mean, there are many reasons for them to get merged, because people lost interest, because, well, someone found out that it wasn't actually needed anymore. Sometimes because we decided, no, we really don't want this. But most of them actually get merged. And it also seems that most contributors or PR creators are kind of happy enough about how things work. So I think it's going quite well. One problem is that the number of open issues is increasing, but yeah. Well, maybe a bit on AI. Alexei, my co-maintainer, he's currently trying to bring down the number of open issues by using Claude Code, which is also unfortunately creating more PRs than usual, which is a bit annoying, but at least, I mean, the question is always who's creating these PRs, and he knows the collection, so the quality is quite good. I mean, if you get a random PR from an unknown person, as we heard earlier today, it can take a lot of work. But if it's from a person you know well and who knows the collection well, then it's a lot better. Well, we can try to use AIs to polish stuff or to provide like skill files, agentMD files, and so on to make it easier for people. We could also try to use AIs for reviewing PRs. I think it would probably be worth it. I mean, that should probably work. AIs could probably also help maintaining CI, because that's a pretty bounded and specialized job, and just at the end you'll see basically whether it works or not. Some things I'm a bit skeptical about is like using AIs to try to help user support questions. I mean, if people do that themselves, well, maybe it's their own chance, but you don't really want to let an AI answer questions in your forum. It can be dangerous. Using them to improve extend documentations is okay as long as you carefully review the result. Trying to fix bugs automatically, also review. Extend tests or produce missing tests, you also have to review it. And the problem with community general is that it's a very widely scoped thing, so this is problematic. For other projects, it might be better. Now the cat. And the conclusions. So I think the most important point is making sure that people can help themselves by providing some essential services they need for that. But everything else, I mean, if someone wants a bug fixed, they have to come up with a fix. They have to pay someone to do a fix for them, or otherwise find a way to get someone to fix it for them. And for that, it's important to figure out the minimum amount of work which you need to do to allow people to do this and to do good things. Bots and AI can help, but the question is how much. I guess we'll find out in a couple of years after a lot of try and fail everywhere in many different projects. And also, I think it's important to remember that this isn't a job. You should make sure not to burn out. Okay, and that's basically it. I want to say thank you to a lot of people who helped with Community General over the time, like Armin and Andrew, which have been co-maintainers in the past, Alexei, who is still now. Then there are a few people from Red Hat, like John Barker, Andrew Kuchelov, and Ajibit Kazurde, who help a lot with this collection. I mean, not as much as it would be great sometimes. because Red Hat would do a lot more, but I mean, I can understand that they don't. Then also thanks to Nick for helping with the GitLab modules and to many more people who contributed. Thanks a lot. That's it. And I guess it's a bit tight on the schedule, so if you have questions, you can also ask me later.
Yeah, we can maybe squeeze one in.
Okay. So I used to be active with the OpenStreetMap project, and there we had a similar challenge. Who should maintain all the geo objects we collected? And one thing we came up with was an additional attribute check date where we could just record when we had a last check, last view on this. So did you have a similar discussion that people could somehow somewhere store that this was last review then? And otherwise you could throw away old scripts or something like that?
That's a very good question. It's kind of telemetry. I mean, manual telemetry in this sense, because someone has to explicitly say that they checked it. But it's, I mean, I know a lot of people, especially using automation stuff, which set up some automation like 8 years ago, and it's still running and it's working. And I mean, they don't care. They don't want to report somewhere that it's still working. They just use it and it works for them. And if you remove it, it breaks. So yeah, I'm not sure whether it will work for this specific system. But yeah, I mean, for some projects, I think it's a good idea. For this one, maybe not so much, because people there are not very good at reporting back to you. But yeah.
Perfect.
That's true.
I was just checking our code base, how we were deploying CodeSeams.com, and we are using quite a lot of your stuff.
I'm not surprised.
Thanks a lot
Also because of
for
the
working
GitLab
on this
modules.
and for the presentation, Felix.
Well, thank you.